go. Let me switch it over. Whoa. Okay. I'm trying out that slower transition thing with OBS. That's kind of neat, I guess. I don't know. Hello. This is English 386, the graphic novel class at the University of Mary Washington, and I am Professor Zach Whalen. And hopefully, if you're watching, you're in my class, or if you're not in my class, of course, you're welcome to watch. But hopefully, most of my class is watching. It looks like I've got 14 viewers. That's pretty good. So, good morning, everyone. Hope you're doing okay. It's a cloudy morning. It's not really raining at the moment, but it was raining earlier. It's just kind of cloudy. I've got all my nighttime lighting stuff set up here. The things I use to stream, if I'm streaming or recording at night, I've got all the lights on. So it's kind of harsh, I feel like. So I don't know. Sorry about that. But just try not to look at me if it's too harsh. I hope you can hear me okay. If not, let me know. Today, here's what I have in mind. On Friday, if you recall, we met in Discord instead of having the stream like I've been doing, and I think that went really well. I enjoyed that conversation. It was very fast-paced, but I believe everyone was able to participate. I think it helped to have the breakout channels, and so people could have a slightly smaller audience for their conversations around different topics, and I like that idea. So I will probably do that again this Friday. On Wednesday, actually no, I probably won't, come to think of it, but I'll let you know. I'll probably be streaming all 3 days this week, just based on what I need to share with you all and get you all looking at and working on and thinking about at this point in the semester. So I'll probably end up streaming. I'm kind of like you, waiting to hear what's going to happen with going back online, or going back face to face, or staying online. The idea was that we would probably hear something this week. So hopefully that's the case. Hopefully, I don't know. I'm happy. I think either option has its merits and its pros and cons, but I certainly am looking forward to getting back into the classroom. If I can't, then I will be okay and we'll manage, but it's just, it's nice to be together sometimes to talk about things. That said, it's also nice to be able to do things like this digitally, so I'm certainly happy that I have this opportunity to share some things with you over Twitch and hear your input and thoughts and questions, through other media. So I'm going to be talking today about George Herriman and Wizard McCay. I had intended to give you some links before today and ask you to read a few things, and then we could talk about them. But I didn't do that. I forgot to do that. So instead, I'm going to spend a little bit of time today introducing George Herriman and Wizard McCay to you, and then I'll assign some things for you to look at and respond to on Wednesday. So hopefully today will be an introduction, and then Wednesday will be a bit more of a conversation about these things. So, and when we do conversations, by the way, I'm not totally against voice channels in Discord. It's just something I haven't done much of. So if you have any thoughts about that, pro or con, let me know. I think it's something that certainly people can do and can do well. You can also do video rooms, essentially like Zoom, in Discord. So, I mean, that's an option too. It's not my first preference, I guess, but it's something that some people like and some people can do really well. So if you do have any strong opinions about different modalities of conversation, let me know, and I'll be happy to try to work those into the plan as we go forward. All right, so another thing going on today, this is another announcement, is it's very soon going to be assigning your webcomic groups. I want to try to get that by Wednesday, and then with that, I'm going to do a couple of things besides put you into a group of people that you'll be working on with your webcomics. So I'm kind of waiting to see about the online face-to-face question, because if we do go online, in some senses that will be easier in terms of how I arrange you into groups. So I'm kind of, I want to wait and see if I should do it one way or wait and see if we can have a face-to-face option, in which case I would do it a little differently. So I'm trying to, like you, I'm eager to see just in terms of going back or not, but I also, it kind of changes some things logistically for me. So I'm probably my plan is to let you know that on Wednesday, or before class on Wednesday, hopefully, and you'll have that group to start working with. Something I haven't mentioned a lot of yet, and I wanted to mention here before I get into content for today, is a couple other things that I'd like for you to consider doing with your group. Not consider, but I would like for you to do in coordination with your group. And there are 2 assignments, so let me actually pull these up here. I probably have not updated the due dates on these on the website, but let me take a look at it and explain the concept, and then once you have your group, you'll have specific due dates for each of these things. So in terms of these assignments, I'm talking about mainly blogging. This is going to be the one that's the most, I guess you probably need to know some things about. If you look at the main page, the comics, marywashitcomics.net website, there is this here where you can see, I mean, this is the front page is blog posts by former students, right? So this is a legacy class, basically. So you're adding to this legacy this semester, hopefully, right? And so there are going to be rules for this or guidelines. The idea is that you, well, no, not that one. Where was I? I was just there. There we are. Went the wrong way. You're writing content for a general audience, and you're trying to write something interesting that contributes to a conversation about comics, graphic novels, even animation is okay, as long as it's somewhere in the ballpark. But to avoid this being a big wall of text that everyone does, or really to also to avoid it being kind of a burden, I'm going to be spreading out the due dates for these based on your webcomic group. So I'm going to put you into groups for the purpose mainly of producing that webcomic, but I'm also going to use those groups to coordinate when it's going to be your turn to blog. And so there's some guidelines here. A few things that are a little bit I don't know, unusual, I guess. Maybe you've done blogging before, but one of the things I want to emphasize with these blog entries is that you're writing articles. So think about trying to make these interesting and appeal to an audience that's generally interested in the kind of thing you're saying. And so that means you have to think about audience and think about these really essentially as magazine articles, right? So there are the requirements that I've spelled out for these blog entries are kind of oriented around that. And you can tweak these guidelines a bit, but the idea basically is that there should be an interesting title, and you should use images, you should use links. In other words, there should be a well-crafted blog entry, and that's what these requirements here spell out. They spell out what's hopefully a well-crafted blog entry. So let's see. There was some discussion here in Discord about different modalities. So let me just respond here. So Yoshi Player was saying. Yeah, so that the idea of it being easy to talk over each other is kind of what I worry about. Like if we had 25 of us or however many there are of us all talking at once in a Discord voice channel, I think that would be pretty chaotic. It'd be kind of hard to have, like you miss the cues of like whose turn it is to talk, the kind of stuff that we would normally be able to do very easily in face-to-face and even can manage somewhat in Zoom. Just the voice makes that tricky unless it's a pretty small group. So if I did do a voice chat, I would probably do a breakout kind of thing again, so there'd be like groups of 3 or 4 talking to each other, but then like I'd want to know what you're talking about, so I'd want to hear that too. So I don't know how I would manage that. So we'll see. Zoom is something I'm not inherently opposed to, but I am trying to avoid it, just because I feel like I'm called upon to be in Zoom meetings a lot, and I kind of get tired of it. So I'm trying to find other platforms. And yeah, September 1st was the date that has been mentioned, but I don't know if that was like a definite we will decide on September 1st announcement. I feel like what I heard was we should have a pretty good idea by September 1st or something like that. So I feel like that's what I heard, but maybe there is something more definite that has been promised. And either way, I think we need to know so that like if you're moving, like if you're going to be moving back to campus, you should know, a week ahead of time whether or not you're doing that or not, at least. So, and I understand some students are already on campus, so they certainly would like to know if they're going to get to stay all semester or if they have to go home. So I don't know. It's really kind of weird, but hopefully we'll get there. Piper, I was just explaining the blog assignment and how this is part of the webcomic group arranging, and that's something that's going to happen on Wednesday. So you will all have different due dates for the webcomic assignment. For the blogging assignment. For the webcomic assignment, that'll be very specific. I was just mentioning it because I haven't talked about it much recently, so I wanted to kind of remind you all about this and give you a couple more pointers on it. So that's what's up on the screen right now. So that's what I just talked about. Just more FYI. The other thing that I wanted to mention, and I don't remember where I put this on the syllabus. Perhaps, is it here? No, I think, no, actually come to think of it, this is just in Canvas. Let me see. Another assignment that you will work on with your cohort, with your group, is using Instagram. And this is something like, I tried it out last year for the first time. I think it went really well, so I want you all to try it as well. And this is going to be where, on an assigned 2-week period, your group is in charge of the hashtag ENGL386, which is going to be, that is our class hashtag. And if you search for it on Instagram, you'll see a legacy of people having used it over time. Somebody stop that.
Computer, stop.
There's an alarm going off in here. So the idea is that you are in charge of it, and so like you can actually look back on the Instagram and see what people have done. It's basically a way of sort of sharing the conversation or the insights, or even like taking notes publicly. You can use it to promote your webcomic if it lines up that way, but it's meant to be pretty informal but public facing, as opposed to the informal kind of conversations we can have in Discord. So yeah, that's something, I don't know if there's much else to say about it at this point, but just to remind you that this is a part of that webcomic group assignment structure, right? It's not the webcomic assignment itself, but this is going to be the same group of people that you coordinate this with. And as I suggest here, if you don't want to use your primary Instagram account, absolutely fine. You can make a Finsta and then share the login stuff for that with your group, and then you all could tweet as that, or Instagram post. I guess post is the verb. You could post as that persona if you want to do that. That's what one group did last year, I thought, pretty effectively. So just some reminders about some of those kinds of things coming up. And if you have any questions about logistics or things, then let me know in Discord or other places. Okay, yeah, that's what I thought I saw, Arrow279. That it was from Pano, and that was what his goal was. So I don't know. That's tomorrow, so hopefully that decision is moving along, and we'll know something soon. Okay, so what I want to do today is talk a bit about George Herriman and Winsor McCay. And I've got some things pulled up in my browser here. Usually when I come to do this in person, I have like physical things that I come to class and I pull up on like a document camera. I don't yet have a document camera at home, so I might need to order one, but I also don't have all my books here, so it's a little awkward. But I can show you some things that I found online that can help convey the same ideas, and I'm going to show you how to access some of these things yourself, to read them and reflect on them yourselves. So let's just start with George Herriman. And I started putting together like an actual slideshow. I don't usually do presentations very often, but let me see. I wonder if there's a way I feel like if I go full screen, it's actually going to hide it, or you're not going to be able to see it on the stream. So let me see. I wonder if I can present this. Let me see. I have an idea. Because I think OBS is not going to grab this window if I go over here, right? But I think I can pull the URL of the presentation mode back into this window, but in another tab. Yeah, I think that works. The stream preview that I'm watching is a little bit behind, but I think it's working. Let me just watch and see if it comes through. Yeah, okay, great. So this is George Herriman. I want to start with George Herriman, and then I'll talk about Winsor McCay. Roughly contemporaries in terms of the timeline here. But like I said when I was talking about Obadiah Oldbuck, I'm not attempting to give you an exhaustive comics history in this class. I can't do that. We don't have time, and that would be a different class than what we're doing. I'm approaching this as a medium, and I'm trying to understand specific, I guess, inflection points or interesting moments in the history of this medium. And I think understanding specific artists' contribution to the medium is pretty important. But also I think understanding the form of the comics medium is something that we can do a little bit more clearly whenever we look at artists who are really experimenting with the form and really bending it into new and interesting directions. So George Herriman is mainly well known for his comic strip, comic series, I guess, Crazy Cat. And what we have here in this image is the archetypical situation for a Crazy Cat comic. And so this is, I I guess, the primary conflict and tension that exists in that comic strip. So he starts doing this in 1916, I believe. I think that's right. Maybe 13, but 19 teens anyway. George Herriman is a cartoonist who had done other comic strips before. He starts adding a conflict in sort of like a sub panel below another comic, the Dingbats. And then he has down below it, like sort of the gutter of that comic is this little conflict or situation involving with this cat and mouse, and then that eventually becomes the whole comic, and then it becomes it's Crazy Cat, right? So this is what we see here are the two main characters. There are actually three of the main characters technically. So we have here, of course, the mouse on the right. We have Ignat. His name is Ignatz, and actually I've got labels here. So we've got Ignatz the mouse. We have Crazy Cat the cat, and then we have a brick. The continual conflict in this strip is between these two characters, but it's not exactly conflict. The cat and mouse, this sort of funny animals comics, is something that has had a long history already, even in the 19 teens. Like that was kind of what cartoons were, and of course Mickey Mouse comes out of that, like Felix the cat. There's a whole bunch of different funny animal cartoons that are originally comic strips and then become animation later on, and you know, the cartoons that we recognize and know. So George Herriman was not inventing the cat and mouse conflict as a subject of a cartoon situation, but he did something pretty different with it. What we see in this scenario is Ignatz throwing a brick at Crazy Cat's head. Crazy Cat, I don't know if you can tell, this image actually isn't the best picture of it. This is just a nice, this is one of many, but let me find it. I have a bunch of tabs up of things. There are slightly better expressions of this. Yeah, there you go. So let me zoom in on that one. This one up here on the top right, this is the same scenario with the normal, a bit of a more of a typical flourish added onto it, where you have Ignatz throwing the brick, the zip, the pow, but then you see that there's a little heart popping off of Crazy Cat's expression. So Crazy Cat loves Ignatz and continually interprets everything Ignatz does as a sign of affection. Ignatz, I mean, they go back and forth, right? Ignatz, but usually Ignatz hates Crazy Cat or is trying to injure Crazy Cat with these bricks. But Crazy Cat just interprets that as love and always has this little heart popping out, often has the heart popping out. The brick is the, I guess, the item. Sometimes the brick is seen as like a totem of conflict, or like a symbol, almost. I don't know. Almost used. I almost said pornographically. It's literally pornographic, but there are moments where the brick is often seen as the object that permits transgression. Like it's the transgressive object that Ignatz indulges in, that injures Crazy Cat, but Crazy Cat doesn't mind. So very interesting dynamic there. And then we see here in this particular panel, we see Officer Pup, who is the other of the three major characters. There's quite a few other secondary characters, but Officer Pup is always trying to restore order. So Officer Pup is always trying to put Crazy Cat in jail. Ignatz in jail. So that's the other kind of tension, and it makes a triangle, right? So we have Crazy Cat, we have Ignatz, we have Officer Pup, and Officer Pup is trying to maintain the order between Crazy and Ignatz. Ignatz and Crazy are at each other, but they're at odds with each other. So what Crazy Cat desires from Ignatz is not what Ignatz is denying, but Ignatz is trying to do something else entirely. So it's a very complex and very fluid kind of situation. Fluidity and flexibility, I think, is a key feature of Crazy Cat comics as you read them. And I just pulled this example as one. So one of the noteworthy features that you can see here very clearly is the fact that the background never stays the same. So the background is always changing, and you can see here on the left is this sort of cactus thing, and then this like often geological or landscape features have really symmetrical, geometric kind of shapes to them, and you can see that here in this one. And then here's sort of like a cowboy hat kind of thing in the background, and then later it's this much more rectangular kind of thing in the background, but the same place. And so this idea of the continually shifting landscape, it's a running feature, you could say a running joke of Crazy Cat comics. There's even one that I'll show you in a minute where Crazy and Ignatz are doing something, and they notice that, or no, I think it's Officer Pup. but they notice that the background hasn't changed, and they realize that something's up, and so they investigate and figure out what's going on, and it turns out it's a false background. So that kind of metatextual play is really interesting. So this is, I mean, and this is a typical kind of thing, almost like this one is. I don't know. This one's more. I showed it more as evidence of it being kind of typical than anything else. The idea that Ignatz is in jail, but is not going to stay there. That's always the case. But even, I don't know. In this case, he gets out because a fine fettle of frost, full of a fickle disdain for season, chills Coconino County into a severe status of ice. So this like silly like wordplay basically creates this scenario where now the moat is frozen over and they can ice skate out. But as you can see, Ignatz and Crazy do sometimes get along, as they're demonstrating here as they ice skate around the jail. So the setting is Coconino County. That is a real place in Arizona, and part of the fantastic goldness of the backgrounds and the general landscape for Crazy Cat comics is inspired by that. This is another one that I pulled up that I just really liked. I'll show it to you in a second. But the idea is that this was inspired by a real place, and that inspiration you can see actually in later work. If you think of like how Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner, that's set in a similar landscape, and it's very fantastical, almost surreal kind of desert landscapes. And if you know Calvin and Hobbes, every now and then he would become Spaceman Spiff and he would go to Mars. The illustrations for those, Bill Watterson has said he was inspired by Crazy Cat's Coconino County for that. So it's something that has an influence on later cartoonists and other things. This is another, I don't know, this is just one I really liked. Okay, so this is Officer Pup, and as you can see, he's got I guess a wooden stake here, and he's saying, "At play, at work, it's high gear noodling with me." And he taps this into the ground, or he drives this stake into the ground. And he says, "There, he's most welcome to it, with my compliments." And as you can see, the top of this stake is kind of rectilinear or cuboid. It's kind of in the bottom left of your screen now. Let me see, maybe I can zoom in even more. Yes, okay, good. Zoom. So he's got a plan here. We'll see what his plan is pretty quickly, but he's created this rectangle on the ground, and he feels pretty confident that this is going to work. So he goes to sleep, and he says, "And so I reward myself with cop's delight, a nap." And he's, what I love about this one is, whereas in the one we saw before with the ice skating, the panels are fairly conventional. We have mostly rectangles. This one's kind of a thought bubble, but mostly rectangles. In this case, the panel actually has become something else. The panel, if you look at it, is actually a watch. So it has like the top, like the button on a watch or a stopwatch, and then you've got this shape here that he's inside while he's having this nap. Right, so I love the play with paneling is something that you'll see here, and of course in Winsor McCay certainly in a little bit. Okay, so here's Ignatz, and you can see the background has changed. It's this big weird tree thing, and whereas before there was actually a wall there, but not anymore. And here he's saying, "Its form, its color smacks of brick, and yet." So you can see he's suspicious, as he should be. Oops. Too small. So then he comes across Officer Pup, who is taking a nap, and Officer Pup, as you can see, is dreaming of Ignatz struggling with that fake brick. Ignatz says out loud, "Beauty slumbers, wrapped in sweet dreams, he smiles." He has such a poetic way of saying that. And let's see. Now sometimes panels are numbered, but I'm pretty sure we're just supposed to read left to right on this one. "Brick, you say, Mouse? What brick?" "Oh, you know, Topsy, that wooden brick, heh heh heh." And he says, "Well, he took it like a sport. There's spots in that mouse. That's really not bad, not bad. You clever cop, I enjoyed it very much, and so did that dear cat, ha ha." So, as you can see, he came, he sawed, and it leaves it blank here. This is a reference to the "I came, I saw, I conquered, Vinny, Vitty, Vici," and he's saying he came, he sawed, and then there's nothing else to complete that with because it got the phrases out of order, and I guess he just sawed off the stake. I just think it's a funny strip. And you can see down here, just like there's a little extra one where he's holding the brick out in front of Ignatz to kind of, you know, to have him chase the brick. So this kind of idea of the brick becoming this almost totemic or fetishistic object is really interesting, and you see it going on here. There's also in Discord, it just popped up, like the Tom and Jerry, right? Like, so this idea of the cat and the mouse that are always at each other, but sometimes decide to work together. That's definitely a theme here. Although Tom and Jerry don't usually have like a romantic, like love triangle situation going on, which is what you do see here. Yeah, and so there's a question just now too about Crazy Cat. Quotation marks, they do it a lot, and here this is, in this particular one, you do have kind of, I think you have Officer Pup, you're saying brick, you say mouse, what brick? Like he's trying to, it's a way, it emphasizes a way of saying that sentence, but you're right, it's something that Herriman does a lot, and he, I don't know, he just likes to do that for emphasis. I think these are mostly quotation marks for emphasis. Okay, so somebody's yelling over there. Yeah, it's there's a lot of things that you can enjoy about these. Crazy Cat and Winsor McCay also has the same situation where they're both very experimental, and their works are enjoyed and appreciated even by literary critics. Like there's something that these are recognized as artistic and valuable for that reason. They did sometimes struggle to find audiences in just your conventional newspapers, but apparently William Randolph Hearst, the publisher, was personally a big fan of both Crazy Cat and of Winsor McCay's Little Nemo, and so he kind of pushed them to keep being published in his papers, and those were very influential. So these are at times postmodern, at times surreal. There's a lot of other layers to Crazy Cat that I think are interesting to explore. Let's see, this is one, I just really like the drawing on this one and the coloring. Just really intense color. That's really fun to look at. Yeah. So this is interesting. So I actually, what I like about this one, let me kind of go through it, and then I'll show you what I think about it. This one is a star falls, a little star, just a baby star, una estrelita caída? I don't know, I can't read that. So the star has fallen, Crazy catches it, and wonders what it is, and then looks up to see where it came from. Notice the background is continually chaotic. Like there's no attempt to make it look like the same place in the background at all. So what Crazy does is he gets his pillowcase. Remember, he was over here sleeping under this kind of Dr. Seuss looking tree. He gets the pillowcase, he constructs kind of a hammock thing out of it, and then he catches some smoke from the fire, and then makes it into like a parachute and takes it back up. And then later on, Ignatz is doing something, and the pillowcase falls back down, and inside he finds a note. It says, "I'm back home and happy, thanks. Dash Twinkie." A note and a pillow slip from the sky, signed Twinkie. I wonder if Crazy knows anything about this. And Ignatz says, him? I've pointed this one out because Crazy Cat is gendered in different ways. So in this particular example, it's saying, Ignatz is saying him, referring to Crazy Cat. Other times, Crazy Cat is given feminine gender, so given like her. There's one even where there's a census worker who says, ask Crazy Cat, what should I put down for you? And Crazy just says, whatever you want. And so there's this way in which Crazy Cat is not consistently gendered. And so this is similar to the flexibility in the background. There's this kind of fluidity and flexibility in Crazy Cat's gender. And I believe, if I remember correctly, Herriman said that Crazy Cat was didn't have specific gender because they were essentially a fairy kind of creature. So not really human, obviously, as a cat, but even within this universe where other characters do have gender, like Officer Pup and Ignatz, Crazy was this kind of fairy creature that existed above and beyond all that. So it's an interesting idea, and I was looking at an interesting biography of George Herriman that where the thesis or the central claim is that George Herriman's interest in fluidity and flexibility and even surrealism may have come about from his life, from his biography. So from his background. So George Herriman was born in New Orleans, and if you look closely, this is not a good example because Crazy isn't talking, but let me find one. Well, let's see, where was I? Too many pages. Okay, actually, you know what I've got? This is a good transition. I will show you. I have a couple of different PDFs in Canvas with Crazy Cat daily strips. The ones I was just looking at were the Sunday strips, and so the dailies are shorter. So let me find one where Crazy is talking. If you look at, okay, yeah, so you can kind of see it here, I think. If I can I zoom in on this? Yeah, this is a whole running joke here where Officer Pup there's somehow 3 of him. And so here he's saying, one of you gentlemens is Officer Pup, ain't one of you. So I'm trying to speak the way he does. So so Crazy has an accent, basically. And so trying to understand what his accent is kind of interesting. So one of you's is Ignatz Mice, ain't you? Yes, one of us is. And one of you's is Officer Pup. Yes, one of us is. Well, if there's safety in numbers, Ignatz is safe. And I'm trying to read it literally, like vernacularly, the way that it's spelled. So the accent, the specific accent he's doing that Crazy Cat has here is a New Orleans Creole accent. It's kind of hard to tell when you see it written out because a lot of the way that accent sounds might have to do with vowels, and that's a little hard. But you can, if you look at it eventually, I think you can get that. So George Herriman was born in New Orleans, as I said. George Herriman was black, and but often did not disclose that. He passed as white in a lot of contexts and communities and to people. So his origin, I mean his upbringing, his ethnic identity was something that he to some extent suppressed or kept hidden as an aspect of his public profile or his persona. But in his actual life, he grew up in New Orleans, and then his family moved to Los Angeles, and then he spent a lot of time vacationing. That family spent a lot of time going to and visiting Coconino County, and that inspired him to create these backgrounds. But this idea of growing up in first Reconstruction South, and then seeing the incursion in the Jim Crow South kind of taking hold in his lifetime, this idea of how much could be taken away from you and how much your life could change. He had to move when he was fairly young. The biographer I was reading was theorizing that aspect of his life and that experience led him to create this character and this world where fluidity and suddenness and change is something you'd sort of take for granted. And I think that's an interesting take on it. This is kind of a new idea for me. I haven't thought about it much before. I was getting ready for class today, so I want to think about it some more. But I think it definitely makes sense. Okay, so for George Herriman, here's what I'd like for you to do, as this is homework for George Herriman. I've got 2 PDFs here, Crazy Cat Part 1 and Part 2 PDF in the in Canvas, in the files section. I promise I will do a Canvas announcement with direct links to these files so you'll know which ones exactly. But take a look at both of them. They're not super long, and these are the daily strips. The other thing you can do is, if you go to comicstriplibrary.org, again, I'll share the links here. Comic Strip Library has a lot of examples of Crazy Cat comics and also Winsor McCay's comics. So I recommend browsing as much of this as you can, I guess. So if you look at this little interface here, you can select different titles. Crazy Cat is what we're interested in. Unfortunately, it only has the black and white versions, and these were published sometimes in color, sometimes black and white. So this only has the black and white. I'm going to look for, our library has a Crazy Cat collection. I'm going to go check it out hopefully today, and if it is high color, if it is high quality and color, then I will make some scans of it or find some way to share that with you. I have not yet found like a free to access version of that. These works are public domain, most of them, because if they were published before 1923, they are in the public domain now. Certainly there are some crazy strips that go later than that, but the ones that are before 23 are public domain. That said, for you to have a high quality scan of a color one, you have to have a physical copy of the newspaper that was published, that broadsheet newspaper that was published in color, and then you have to do a high quality scan of it. And so there is a company that's been doing that for early comics, and they look very nice. But I'm not sure I fully understand the copyright situation, but they have rights to their particular scans of those newspaper pages. So even though the artwork is public domain, they actually own the scan of it, if that makes sense. It doesn't make sense, but that's what I understand. So I'm not going to give you a specific amount of these to read, because honestly, I find them hard to read online, especially the black and white ones. I will look for a full color version or a copy of some of these to give you, but do your best with it. And if you find one you really like, share it in Discord. So you can either link directly to the PNG like I've got here, or you could screenshot out a panel or two if you want to do that, crop it out, whatever you want to do. But if you find one you really like or that you have some questions about, share it in Discord and we can talk about that on Wednesday. Okay, so there's a lot. I'll show you a couple. I really like these crazy cats. One of the things that students often note in Crazy Cat is, in looking at the artwork, especially the daily strips, is how the art doesn't look that good, or they will note how it seems really sketchy, and that will certainly be true when you compare the artwork here to the artwork in Little Nemo, which I'll show you shortly. Herriman's work is very sketchy, and yet it has a lot of inventiveness and playfulness and precision to it. And I think that's what's that sort of grows on you the more you read it. There's also a lot of playing with what I would call metatextuality or metaleptic textuality, the idea that there's a reference to a fourth wall or a reference to the drawing medium itself. And you see a lot of that in these daily strips. And so I've just picked this one out randomly, I guess. So this is another dog character. I don't remember his name, but he's an artist in this particular thing. And so let me kind of narrate these couple of days of this strip from 1942. So Officer Pup is noticing that this dog is drawing a picture on the wall. So he's saying, "How real?" And he says, "I paint only realities." Officer Pup says, "Still, I wish it were really real." "What did you think it was?" "Could be but a fancy. Fancy me foot. Is that model a fancy?" So I guess the joke here is that this dog was painting a picture of Ignatz in jail that was so realistic that Officer Pup said, "I wish that were really true." And he says, and then the other artist dog says, "Actually, it is true. This is what I was basing my art on. He's over there in the jail for real right now." So it's this joke. All right, so then this other dog says, now this is almost like I wonder if this is like the prequel for it. But this dog is saying, "Empty jail, not good that way. Mouse should be in it." "Yes, sir." And then he paints a picture of Ignatz, and then Ignatz sees that picture of himself and is understandably surprised. And if you notice, like, the drawing on it is indistinguishable. Like, if you were to look at either one of these in isolation, you would just call it Ignatz. Like, it would just be Ignatz, and it is Ignatz for both of these. But Ignatz seeing himself as a drawing is something that is kind of startling, and so for him to be able to see himself, he has to be outside of the narrative diegesis of the comic strip. So it's something, and there's a whole series of these that really play with that idea of recognizing the comic. This is the one I was thinking of when I mentioned earlier that the brick almost becomes fetishized. So here, playing again with this idea of drawing, right? Ignatz is saying, "At least I can draw a picture of a brick and enjoy myself by just looking at it." And then the dog says, "You done it?" "Yes, I did." "Why?" And he says, "Ain't you ashamed of yourself?" And he blacks it over and says, it says censored. So the brick has been censored in this particular panel. You have to point out, though, that it is still a black rectangle on a wall. Like, it hasn't actually taken away the thing that Ignatz is enjoying in panel 2. Like, it's still the same thing, but more of it, and it also has this word censored. So that almost underscores the idea of it as a fetish. And it's, I don't know, it's interesting. This is another one I didn't mean to talk this much about these, but I just really like these. So this might be my favorite one. So in this one, Ignatz throws a brick, right? As he often does in panel 1. And let me see, I wonder if I can zoom in on that some more. He throws a brick as he often does. He pauses because he notices Officer Pup is coming and quickly erases the brick from the wall. And Officer Pup comes up and says, "Big eraser you have on that pencil, big eraser." Ignatz says, "Big pencil." And I love the absurdity of that conversation, but also I love how, okay, so first of all, he throws it and then it freezes, right? That's not how bricks normally act, except in cartoons. He erases it. Notice that there was not a wall before, but as soon as he needs to erase it, there is a wall that it is on. And you can see that it's there because there's a picture on that wall here. There's a picture of that tree. Is this the same tree that appears in panel 2, slightly farther into the distance, or the same tree that appears in panel 1 in the immediate background? Probably so. We almost get a sense of the background flattening for the purpose of it being a surface that can be erased from. And now it's completely gone, and they're just kind of in this cloudy void by the end. That fact does not bother either of them, of course. I like this one because it's just so dumb. This one, A, corn, P, nut, D, light, and then it's just the audience throwing stuff at the stage because of how dumb that is. So I really like Crazy Cat comics. I think they're funny, and I think they're really interesting and experimental in a postmodern way. Like they experiment with the ways that the medium can communicate, and they do really interesting things. All right, so definitely explore those two PDFs, and then take a look at comicstriplibrary.org. Again, I'll give you some links to do that. Oh, did it? Cool, I didn't know that. Thanks, Piper. Yeah, I didn't plan that. Or no, maybe I did. Maybe I did plan that. Okay, so let's take a look at Winsor McCay's Little Nemo strips. And Winsor McCay is another artist who is experimenting with the medium. He also experimented with other media. Winsor McCay produced I don't know if do I have the tab up anymore? Maybe I can pull it up here. But Winsor McCay published or produced the first animation, right? So this is, if you look at the history of animation, there's different ways you could talk about like what is animation, but as far as like a cartoon that was projected on a screen that was hand-drawn, Winsor McCay is probably the first person to do that. And I'm gonna see if I can open this on the stream. Maybe I can show you this briefly. Gertie the Dinosaur is his most well-known work, and you can, of course, this is public domain too, so you can link to this. I just don't know what's going to happen if I pull this up. If I open this in my media player here, I don't know if it's going to show up at all in Discord. Let me see if I can do this. Okay, let me find it. Here it is. Okay, nice. Pretty good, pretty good. Let me make this a bit bigger and kind of talk through it. So this version of it was released as a film, obviously because we have this copy of it. I don't know how well or how smoothly that's going to play back on the stream, but it kind of doesn't matter because, as you'll see, it's a pretty low frame rate anyway to begin with. Hopefully it won't be too weird. So what happens here? This is a silent film, so there is a soundtrack. I don't know if it's playing. It shouldn't be. If it is, that could be a little distracting, so let me know. It doesn't look like it is on my audio stuff here. So what we see in this film is actually like a film version of a vaudeville act that Winsor McCay would do, where he would actually carry out this interaction that you'll see later on stage physically with the projection of Gertie. And the whole joke of it, the whole premise of this and of the whole Gertie thing, if I can find it here, is he's hanging. This is him there in the bottom left. He's meeting. He and some of his cartoonist friends are hanging out, and they're having dinner. They visit a museum with dinosaur fossils in it, and Winsor McCay places a bet that he can make one of the dinosaurs come to life. So let's see if that's going to happen. So as you can see here, he's going to draw it, and what we see him doing here is drawing each frame of this animation, like picture by picture. And there's basically like a few sort of back and forth. There's like this joke of this like assistant guy who's like carrying this huge stack, and oh no, what's going to happen while he's carrying this huge stack of papers? Let's see if he can manage. They do this gag several times actually, of him trying to carry this huge stack of drawings, basically trying to emphasize, oh no, what's going to happen? Oh, he fell down the stairs. It's all ruined. Not really, but they do this joke basically to emphasize how much effort it took to draw all these frames. I think it's something like 7,000 frames. He drew them himself, but then he had assistants help copy the frames. So yeah, this is Winsor McCay here in the middle with the kind of going bald there with the high collar. That's Winsor McCay. So he eventually gets to the point where he's going to draw this, and this is the point where this is now a version of his vaudeville act that he would do live on stage. So he draws Gertie like this, and then there's a projector. So he's having dinner with his cartoonist friends, and they're saying, "Oh, but you said he could come to life," and he's like, "Hang on a minute." And let's see if I can get to the actual. Here we go. So then this is the actual animation, and so this is the part where he would be projecting her on the screen. At this point, he says, "You know, Gertie, come on out and meet the audience," and then she walks out like this. There's this other sea creature there for some reason. and Gertie is going to eat a big rock. And it's really a beautiful piece of art, and just fascinatingly detailed and precise. And you can really see Winsor McCay's skill as a draftsman to be able to draw this in such a compelling and three-dimensional kind of way. And this sort of back and forth, and you can see him doing different tricks as an animator, like this loop of Gertie rocking back and forth, loops over and over and over again. It's a way for him to save drawing time. This is before cell animation, so he's drawing each frame on a piece of paper and then taking a photograph of it, right? So it's, yeah, so this is Gertie. I'll pause that. I don't know how well, I don't know if the playback is smooth at all, but it's, yeah, it looks okay on my preview of it. Hopefully it looks okay for you too. They have a little banter back and forth. He feeds her a pumpkin at one point, and what he would do on stage apparently is he had a prop pumpkin that he would like throw behind the projector, and so it would look like she ate it. But really like a cute animal, like a really, like you feel like this is what, like this is a living creature. Like he does a really good job of getting this, the way that this animal moves, even if it's not historically accurate for how dinosaurs actually looked. Of course, we don't know. But Gertie is very much kind of like a dog in the way she moves, and he apparently studied dogs and how they moved to create Gertie. Interestingly and sort of randomly, I've made several animated GIFs of these loops, and I think it's just really elegant to look at. I put these on Tumblr a few years ago, and I don't know if you remember, but Tumblr, you know, you can put GIFs on Tumblr, and that was kind of what a lot of people did on Tumblr. So I made some Gertie GIFs, and I guess it was a couple years ago now, Tumblr did this thing where they ban any kind of pornography, or what their algorithm perceives as pornography, and these oh yeah, here comes the pumpkin. It's this tiny pumpkin. These GIFs of Gertie that I created kept getting flagged as pornography. I don't know why, but something about the way they look in the algorithm's view of it, it triggers whatever. I mean, she is kind of fleshy, I guess, but I don't know. So I appealed it the first time it happened, and then afterward I just thought it was funny, so I left the ban on my Tumblr post for that. Okay, so this is Gertie, and this is I wanted to show you this because you know, it's an important part of animation history. There's a lot of other really compelling animation that Winsor McCay created in the same period or a little later, and I'll send you some links to that stuff maybe instead of watching it on the stream here. But his one with he did one with the sinking of the Lusitania, which is very dramatic. I would say kind of disturbing. It depicts the attack, the German attack, the U-boat attack on the Lusitania and the sinking, and it's very politically charged. It's very much U.S. propaganda. Like, it's very much propaganda, but it you know, it was part of the effort to try to get America into World War I, and I guess it worked. But there's some scenes in that I think are really vividly drawn and are pretty disturbing as a result. Kind of like someone was just pointing out, like that Gertie's movement is so fluid, it's almost creepy, and I think yeah, that's the case for Lusitania as well. His one with the centaurs is really bizarre because it was never completed, so we're not really sure what's going on, but I'll just say it's really bizarre. If you look it up, he planned a feature-length film around a family of centaurs, and I don't know, what survives is really odd looking, so check it out, I guess, if you're interested. But definitely check this out. So this is the same website, Comic Strip Library, and here you've got actually two different strips by Winsor McCay here. One is The Dream of the Rarebit Fiend, which I do kind of like better than, maybe better than Little Nemo sometimes. The premise of every Dream of the Rarebit Fiend is some character has a nightmare and wakes up at the end and blames whatever happened in their nightmare on what they had for dinner. And rarebit, or you know, I guess it's Welsh rarebit, is a dish that is served still, and you know, it's good. I've made it. It's like cheese toast. It's like French toast, but with beer, and then like cheese melted on, like a cheese sauce melted on top with lots of Worcestershire. It's really good, and I like it a lot. But it's very strong, I guess. And so the joke is that it would gives you nightmares if what you eat, you know, you eat it before bed. Some of these nightmares are really vivid and disturbing, I think, and that's what is sort of impressive about it. This is someone Okay, so this one is, this person is in hell, and he's sort of drowning in melted cheese, which sounds horrible. So yeah, you see that. I've also got a few uploaded in Canvas, and I just have these as TIFF files, I realized. And so I've uploaded them. I have converted them to GIF, I think. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Or to JPEG, so it's easier to access them. But they are some of my favorites, but they're certainly pretty messed up, I guess is the best way to put it. Oh no, I don't. There's one that's really just. There's several that are pretty disturbing, but this one I really like because it's disturbing, but it's also just really funny. This is another character actually. I can hear those, and you're giving me nightmares. Sorry. This is another character named Sammy Sneeze, and just like the Rarebit Fiend comics, every strip is basically the same, where something is happening, like someone is carrying a big stack of plates, and then they're like, oh no, I hope Sammy doesn't sneeze. And then he does, and then the plates come crashing down. This is one where it's just him, and he just destroys the panel around him. He says, ka, chow, and then the panel breaks. And I just love the expression on Sammy's face here at the bottom. He just looks so fed up with it. He's just like, this keeps happening. What is my life? And so he's looking back at us like why am I here? Why am I doing this? What's happened to me? I can definitely relate to that. So anyway, for Windsor McCay stuff, I definitely I wanted to show you some Rarebit Fiend stuff. There are others that I think are maybe a little bit less disturbing, but that are interesting because they reference the panel or the constructedness of it. So that one did, the panel breaks, right, in that one. In this case, The Dream of the Rarebit Fiend, this person here is being drawn, and he recognizes that the artist is drunk, and so is spilling ink everywhere, even all over himself. And near the end, you can barely even read the text, but basically he's, oh well, I'll never eat another rarebit as long as I live. That's always the punchline. Okay, so Little Nemo, Windsor McCay. For this one, I would like for you to look at some Little Nemo strips, and starting in 1904. These are all in here, and these are actually in color. So not 04, 05. Is it 05? Yeah, there we go. This website's a little awkward to navigate, but I can give you links directly to like this part of it. So this is where it begins. These are pretty good scans of it, but the color is not amazing. I have I have like a physical copy of this that looks better, but you can get the idea at least. These are very wordy, and so be patient with it, I guess. But I'll give you a specific data to read up to. I think up through 1909 is probably good, just to get a sense of some of the really innovative layouts that he does with Little Nemo, and then also to kind of see how he evolves it over time. I think that should be good. So I'll give you links to the kind of starting point and the end point for Little Nemo. And I have lots to say about it, but I want you to have a chance to experience it yourself and think about it. On these pages, like the text is hard to read if you look at it this way, but if you click on View High Quality Image, you can see it at a much higher resolution and then actually read it. Notice that there's a couple things going on. You've got usually some kind of introductory scene in the top, like behind the title. Then you have this section with Nemo himself. And within these, you have dialogue, like speech bubbles. And then you have below each panel, like a summary of what's happening in that panel. So you have lots of text here. On this website, I believe you also can look at just the text by itself. Yeah, so here's a transcript in case you have a hard time reading some part of that. Honestly, what I probably would do is just read this because it's easier to read, and then go back and look through the panels and see how the art depicts that. Okay, so and then I'll have more. Maybe I'll show you some more of the animation on Wednesday, or you of course can seek it out yourself. But like with Crazy Cat, if you find particular pages that you think are really interesting, or panels, or layouts, or whatever, share it in Discord. So just say, hey, this is cool, or what do you all think of this one, or this is one I have no idea what's going on. Can someone explain it? And then we'll have some things to talk about on Wednesday. Okay, so I do plan on doing another stream on Wednesday, but if I change that plan, I will let you know. In other words, I'm interested in your thoughts on these things, and so if it makes sense, I might do like a Discord voice kind of thing. So just check out, plan to be online on Wednesday, and stay tuned for an announcement with instructions about that. But I'll send you an announcement. I'll write it up right now, with links to different pieces of Winsor McCay's work and George Herriman's work to look at as we go forward. Okay, so I've gone a little bit long. I'm going to wrap it up. Do you have any questions or comments before I wrap it up? This is your time to get things in here. So it looks like, yeah, as Yoshi Player pointed out, the animation is unsettling. It's very vivid, very creepy. Okay, well, I'm going to wrap it up then. Thanks for watching. I hope this was interesting. And on Wednesday, we'll take a closer look at some work, especially by Winsor McCay. But I will give you some links shortly here. And that's what I was just, so Poofaloof, that's what I was just saying. Like, it'll be, I'll write an announcement, but it'll be those PDFs that are in Canvas, in the files section of our Canvas course, and some links from this. I'll give you a range of things to look at from on comicstriplibrary.org. So yeah, bear with me. I'm going to take a little break here, and then I'll write up that announcement with those instructions. Okay, great. Well, I'm going to wrap it up here. If you do have questions or anything else, of course, I'll be online all day. So let me know. I just have afternoon classes that I'll be streaming again. So that's it for now. Thanks for watching, and I will see you later.